Alright guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be trimming up all my citrus. I should have done this a long time ago, but I got busy with other stuff and I did not do it. I usually try to do it while it's still warm. It's still warm. It's beautiful today. Fall in East Tennessee is just gorgeous. So it's about 76 today, but I have to trim all this up and let it heal over before winter because I'm trimming them down probably about half their size. And I'm going to thin out some of the branches because citrus really needs one main branch, but it can have multiple, but one is better for it to go up into a tree. But remember, mine have to go in a greenhouse because I live in Tennessee during the winter, and I have to trim them down in order for them to stay at a manageable size because they do grow during the winter, and they usually by the spring they're touching the tops. They're trying to push my panels out. So I'm going to show you what my citrus looks like right now, and then what I'm going to do to it and what it looks like after. As you can see, my citrus is out of control. We got some bees buzzing around. This is my key lime. It's my biggest this year. It more than doubled this year. But I'm going to have to cut this canopy down in order to fit in my little baby greenhouse. It can't get too big because, like I said, it will grow. And then I have my orange, another lemon, my lemon tree that's, the lemons are turning right there, and then my avocado. So I'm going to be cutting these all down and I'll show you how I do the canopy on them, and I'm also going to check for scale. I know I've seen some scale. I'm not going to treat it today because I am going to shock it some by cutting it down really far. Now, if you live in a tropical area, you wouldn't prune your trees like this. I prune my trees like this because they have to go in my greenhouse. If I lived in a tropical area, these babies would probably be put in the ground and I'd be letting them grow crazy. But I can't do that. I have to trim mine because I live in a cold area. Oh, my tag fell off. It says key lime in my registration number, which I'm going to put back on there. Which, yes, I do have scale because I see the ants, but I'm not going to treat that today. I'm just going to cut them down. I'll probably fertilize them and feed them because they definitely need feed right before they go into the greenhouse for winter. Now, this is not, this is what I use. Don't ever let anybody tell you their way is right all the time because that's not true. But I have a bucket of soapy water, and then I have my cutters sitting in it, okay? And then I have some alcohol, a rag, and then my gloves so I can fertilize it later. But this is hot soapy water. I have a rag in there and I'm going to wash these off really good and dip them in a couple times. And then I'm going to wipe them down really good with the alcohol. And the reason I do that is in case I have anything on one tree, because I'm not going to just use my cutters and cut down this tree and go to the next. I'm going to clean them in between each tree because each one might have a different disease or a pest that I don't want to go to the other ones, okay? So always clean your cutters, always use clean, sharp cutters so you don't damage your wood really bad, okay? And just make sure they're clean. And the alcohol, I do that afterwards just to make sure I killed off everything on my cutters because I don't want to spread them, okay? I think we're going to start with this bad boy, my key lime right now. Now, as you can see, this it is flowering, okay? And I'm gonna try to save the pods as much as I can. Now, some of it I'm going to have to cut off, and it's gonna hurt and it's gonna suck because you don't want to cut off your brand new fruit. But I should have done this earlier and I did not. I'm gonna try to save as much as I can, but you live and you learn. Okay, before I cut anything, now I wash these, okay? This is just basic Fiskars cutters. You can get these Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's. Nothing fancy, but I use these, and then now I'm gonna take my alcohol, my rag, and I'm gonna dump it. I'm gonna dump it on it, okay? And then I'm gonna rub it in and let these dry, okay? Let them dry just a little bit. You can even use the rag to wipe it off, but let them dry before you start cutting. Okay, you can see how far I cut that down. And it looks like I gave it a buzz cut on top. But I did keep a lot of the flowers, as many as I could. I did cut some off, but I just made a decision to keep certain ones, okay? I still have a ton on here. And now I can see the plant better, okay? Now I can see in the middle. Now what I'm gonna do is, because mine, if I let them get too bushy during the winter, stay bushy during the winter, the greenhouse collects a lot of moisture, okay? So it gets, on the leaves, you'll start seeing mold, black mold, and you'll start seeing the leaves get diseased. So what I'm gonna do, now that I can see this better, so now I have a good idea of what I need to do, trimming the inside, I'm gonna go inside, and any of the old branches where the fruit was before, like right here, you can tell the fruit was here before, I am going to cut that off, okay? It has no fruit on it, on top. I'm gonna thin it out. I'm gonna thin this out to give it air to breathe. And that's what I'm gonna do for this key lime in order to keep it healthy and to get my fruit for this winter, because I usually do get fruit right in the middle of the winter. And I'm gonna do the same thing to both of my lemons, and this orange is out of control. It's been needing a trim for a while, and to thin it out. So that's too dense. That just holds moisture, and it just breeding ground for aphids, all kinds of scale. It's not good. So you wanna thin them out really good. Now another thing I want to mention is you can take some of these cuttings, okay? If you find some cuttings that don't, and check it out really good, make sure it doesn't have scale or anything else on it, okay? You can cut it and you can strip off all these leaves and strip off the bark at the bottom and root this and get another plant, okay? I think I'm going to do that with a couple of these and get another lime tree. That's how I got this one. That's how I got that lemon tree, which you can see the lemons on it. I did that. That's a cutting from this tree, okay? It's not from seed. It's from a cutting that I rooted. So remember to keep all these together and separate if you're doing multiple trees. I'm going to put this to the side, and I know that's going to be my lime, and I'm going to pick out the best branches, no disease, no discoloration, no pests, and nothing, and I'm going to take that to root it. Now while I was cutting, I don't know if you can see that, right here, see all the ants? This is a severe case of scale. See that? I don't know if it's focusing or not, but I'm scraping it off, okay? It's infested, and you can see all the ants. They're mad because I took away their food source. So this one will definitely go into my fire pit, and it's going to be burned, okay? All the rest of them that I don't use, whichever one I don't use to root, they're all going to be burned. And I found this now. I couldn't see this until I thinned my tree out and cut off the parts. Now I can see it. Now see how it's opening up in the middle? It's got to breathe. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm going to try. Okay, see how much more open it looks? It has room to breathe. I came inside and cut off all the old branches that had fruit on it that had already fallen off, and I did leave a lot of the ones that are going to give me the fruit later. Okay, I did cut off some of the high ones, but that's okay. And I'm picking off any leaves that look discolored, okay? So if they're yellow, you can see some of the yellow leaves down here. I'm going to take those out. I don't ever leave them inside. But they just it needs to be fed. It's not overwatered. But now you can see it's going to be able to breathe inside the greenhouse, okay? Don't be afraid to trim your lemons or limes down, okay? You have to do it sometimes to have a healthy plant. Because one year I had scale so bad on this tree, this exact one that looks beautiful and healthy right now, I had to cut every single branch off except for one. I literally left one branch and it had like 3 leaves. I'm not even joking you. Had 3 leaves on there. I babied that sucker and it finally started budding again and it became a beautiful tree. If you have to cut it down, you can. Don't be afraid to. So that one's done now. I'm going to take all the leaves and everything out of there. I don't ever leave leaves at the base because of pests and stuff. I'm going to take it out. Later on, once I'm done with all these, I'll fertilize them. But see, it's cut down. The canopy's down. It will definitely fit in my greenhouse now and allow growth. All of the bad parts are cut off. I didn't see any more scale, but I will treat it here in about a week or so for scale for about 3 weeks before I put it in my greenhouse, and also for mites because I always have an explosion of mites during the winter and I don't know why. I've tried everything, but I'm going to treat them before they go in and periodically treat them during the winter. Remember, this is for me. I live in a cold climate. You may not have to do that. So now this big beast I'm going to have troubles with because I have the fruit over there that's almost fully mature, and then I have a bunch of babies and they're high up. So I'm going to try. This one's pretty open still from where I trimmed it from last year, but it's getting some light disease on it. I'm sure it has scale. My lemon's the next one. I do want to show you something. See that? So it's damage to my tree right here. Whenever I find a really big spot where damage occurred and pests can get in, I cut it off from right there. Which is going to suck because I have this big beautiful branch, but I'm going to cut it back from right here. Now, a lot of people say the rule is, you know, you don't want to cut anything bigger than your pinky, okay? So this is smaller than my pinky. But I have cut larger branches before when I had to, and it was fine. I wouldn't say that, you know, just go ahead and go wild and cut all the huge branches. I wouldn't do that. But if you had to, don't let anybody tell you that you can't, because that's just nonsense. You have to trim trees up sometimes. And unfortunately, they get damaged, like right there. So I'm going to cut this off right here. I know you're thinking it. She butchered that poor baby. But I promise you, I didn't. So all these are getting ready to come off once they turn fully yellow. So I'm going to have almost all of them come off. And I'm going to be left with a plant that's very open. I cut off most of the dead parts, or parts that were broken. You see, I have a lot of lemons left. And once I fertilize this, and once I feed it, and I get all the pests off of it, I promise it's going to start exploding again. I'm going to see new growth, especially here on these lower branches. That's where I get a lot of the new growth. They'll start popping out in different places, but it's open. See, it's more open. Fit in my greenhouse. These are getting ready to come off, probably before they go in the greenhouse. And it's lighter. It's not weighed down. I did not butcher it, I promise. It will make it. Now, I know my avocado is not considered a citrus tree, but I just lump it all together. So, but I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to cut off all the dead. Basically do the same thing I did with the citrus, and it will start sprouting new leaves in a couple weeks. All right, that one I had to cut a lot off because it is diseased. You can see, I don't know if you can see that. See the little nub right there? That's where a new leaf was trying to come out. So I'm not too worried about it sprouting on here, but this will come back also. They're very resilient. I've had this avocado tree for about 8 years. And I have to cut it back severely every year to fit my greenhouse. If I had a bigger greenhouse that was heated, I would not cut it back so severely, and I would let this beast grow. But avocado roots, they get really big. The root system can be invasive in different places. I've seen it on the news and other places. My mom said, I think it was her aunt had an avocado tree in her yard in California, and it went out underneath the street and destroyed pipes. So the roots on the avocado can be pretty destructive, but I promise you I didn't kill it. I will give you guys an update on these in a couple weeks just to show you they're not dead. But I mean, you can see the difference. Look how much better and open they look. Okay, which they all fit in the greenhouse. Now I'm gonna attack this beast. Remember, clean these in between each different plant. Now this lemon I just gave a tiny little haircut, barely anything, because it was small, and it still has fruit on there. Once it comes off, I'll see if it needs to be trimmed up, but I mean, it's not really big. So that's a pretty good size. So here they are finished. My lemon, my orange has room to breathe. Looks much better. My lime Airflow, good airflow. My lemon. And my poor little avocado. And another thing to remember, any type of clay pot, like a glazed clay, or even just regular clay, holds water longer, okay? If you're watering and you can't figure out why your plant's dying or suffering, those hold water like no other. These plastic ones do not. So I have to water these more regularly. But this one, and I have a couple other, they hold their water. So be sure you're not overwatering them if you have them in the clay pot. This is my daughter's avocado that I'm going to replant in here for her. I'm going to show you my cuttings. This is my cutting from my orange that I'm going to root. Okay. And then I have, ooh, gotta be careful. The orange and my lemon have some wicked thorns. Look at that. Look at that meanie right there. But this is my lemon. I'm gonna pull off any bad parts. So I already have 2 lemons. And then these are the ones I'm going to use for my lime. And I'll do a separate video on this. Okay, now that they're all trimmed, I'm going to feed them. Remember, if you don't feed your plants, they won't grow. It's just like you. Okay? So I'm going to use this. None of this is sponsored. None of these brands are sponsors. It's just what I use at the time. This is one of my favorites, and I think Dr. Earth has a citrus and avocado food too that's really good. So I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to put handfuls. Now on the back of this, it does tell you about the tree height, how much to put in, when to feed, and it does say to feed in fall, and I do anyways for my plants. So I'm going to get cracking, and then I'm going to water it. Alright, that's it for today, guys. Don't forget that if you do live in a cold climate, to take care of your citruses and also feed them. They need to be fed, or else they're never going to do anything and they'll suffer. But hope you enjoyed this video and the beautiful windy day. I know you've been hearing the wind go through the trees today, but it's a beautiful fall day, and I'll see you guys next time.